Michael Thomas's Twitter stole the show on Conference Championship Sunday in the NFL. Even though the Saints weren't playing, Saints haven't played quite in a month. And somehow the Saints were still shrouded in controversy because of some tweets from Michael Thomas during the Chiefs game. These tweets ranged from he wants to play for the Chiefs, ranged from blaming Derek Carr, bad throw for his injury, talked about the 3 and outs this year, talked about the OC search not going well. Tons of topics, right, for Michael Thomas. And he'd let him rip. And everyone's talking about these subtweets. Really, they aren't even subtweets. I mean, these are just in-your-face tweets from Thomas, just lighting up the entire Saints team, front office, coaches, everything. This is Boot Crew Media. We are reacting to their video covering the tweets. We will cover it as only we can do.
So let's go through all of this because it sounds like an awful lot. It is an awful lot. But I would expect nothing less because this is just the way this.
Yeah, Michael Thomas has always done this. I mean, he's tweeted. He tweeted this year, same thing during the Lions game. He was lighting it up, and his Twitter account ended up getting deactivated. Now it's back. Can't stop, won't stop. He's letting it rip. And let me say this too. I think it's interesting that people are confused or blown away that Michael Thomas could have these opinions, because we all had the same opinions. How many of us were booing in the middle of the Lions game or at the beginning of the Lions game? How many of us were booing week in and week out, booing the team off the field? How many of us were talking about the coaches, the franchise, the general manager, the OC, the 3 and outs? We're talking about all of it, right? Now you may say, well, James, big difference. You're the face of New Orleans sports media. Michael Thomas is employed by the Saints. He got paid a lot of money. He's under contract. He's got a big salary. Hadn't played. He's been injured. Well, it's totally different. I don't think it is. Because if you ever worked somewhere, bosses change, coworkers change, structure changes, projects change, vision, mission, all that changes. You can work somewhere, love it for 4 years, and then 1 year, you get a bad boss or a bad coworker or a controversy happens, you hate it. Toxic work environment, you don't want to be there, you're miserable, right? It's happened to all of us. So I'm not surprised that we're seeing this very obvious divide between the Saints breeze, Saints core, Alvin Kamara, Cam Jordan, Michael Thomas, and then we're seeing a very different approach, very different line of thinking and talking from the new Saints core, Dennis Allen and Derek Carr, right? It is obvious, and we've said this all year long, and there's been a million different examples. This is just one of them. It's obvious that the Saints culture is bad. They've admitted it's bad. They said we need to fix the culture. Mickey Loomis said that the day after the Falcons game. He said, we have a culture issue, we got to fix it. It's obvious that there's a real cultural issue. The culture is rotten, and the divide is who was here for success, who was here to see the right way to do it, and who wasn't. Because Dennis Allen and this regime he has, the Mickey Loomis, Dennis Allen, that whole thing, that is the problem. Derek Carr is going to get a lot of talk during this because Michael Thomas was kind of going after Carr about the bad throw and all that stuff. I don't think this has anything to do with Carr as far as like him being the focal point. A lot of people are defending Carr. You're wasting your breath. The conversation should be about Dennis Allen, Mickey Loomis, and this new version of the Saints. Because I tell you what, I'm a little sick and tired of the Saints, of all these controversy, all this drama for the last couple of seasons. The amount of Saints versus Saints, Saints versus fans, players versus coaches, all that's happening with this team, at this point now, it's honestly getting kind of embarrassing. We are reaching a level of toxicity within the franchise where the franchise is seemingly poisoned. The culture is bad. Let's get people out, bring people in. We've got to fix that. All the talk we do about offense and analytics and stats and rookies and drafts and free agents and trades and wide receivers and this, None of that matters if the culture and the foundation is this bad. If it's this bad, no point in bringing anybody in. We've got to fix the big picture problem. We've got to fix the bigger thing. We're not winning anything with a culture like this. And it's not just Michael Thomas, too. I can already see you in the comments. I can already see you saying, Michael Thomas is a cancer. Michael Thomas is this. Whoa, slow down. Because we've heard this same kind of line of thinking from a whole lot of people this year. We've heard Cam Jordan talking about, leadership can change, coaches can change if we're not doing the right thing. We've heard DeMario Davis talk about people not preparing. We've heard him say, people aren't giving the effort. We've heard Alvin Kamara say the same thing. We've heard Alvin Kamara talking about the offense. Ask Pete. We've asked him, or we've heard him questioning why the Saints are doing things with no success. So the players seemingly are feeling the same things we're feeling. The players are echoing the same things we're echoing. Oh, and not to mention, we also saw in the last game of the season the biggest display of a cultural issue with Jameis Winston and the offense defying Dennis Allen to score the touchdown with Jamal Williams. So we've seen it all year long. It's right there for you. It's right there for all of us. The players are giving us validation, and they're giving us a look into this team and looking into the fabric of the culture, the locker room, and the front office, and all that stuff. It ain't good. It's not good at all. It's the first thing I thought when I saw all this was just like, man, this is just more of the same. More of the same this year. And it'd be hypocritical of me to say, Michael Thomas doesn't need to say all this about the 3 and outs when I've sat up here and made 20 videos about 3 and outs. It'd be crazy for me to say, I can't believe Michael Thomas said that about the OC search. I made a video 2 days ago saying, hey guys, we got to kind of go. We got to get an OC. We got to be moving forward. We don't have to rush, but can we at least announce some interviews? Can we at least do something? Can we we don't have to just immediately hire somebody just to say we did it, but can we just kind of be proactive here? They're feeling the same things we are. The question is, why is Dennis Allen seemingly getting this pass? We are seeing a ton of people, Marshawn Lattimore, Alvin Kamara, Cam Jordan, Michael Thomas, Jameis Winston, all these people coming out against Dennis Allen and coming out against whatever is going on in behind closed doors. And it seems like all those people, all the people coming out against it, seemingly those people could get traded, cut, whatever. They seem like they can get moved. For some reason, the only person that is untouchable is Dennis Allen.
Saints have been the last couple of years. A lot of drama, not a lot of success. So let's get into where it started. So Michael Thomas tweets after Patrick Mahomes made a nice throw. He said, you see what they said about how Mahomes used his eyes there and then used the eye emoji. Pretty much him subbing Derek Carr, because remember when he got hurt against the Minnesota Vikings, he felt like Derek Carr didn't look off the safety. And because of that, Michael Thomas took a pretty hard shot from the back. And because of that, he hurt his knee. So he kind of holds a grudge.
Yeah, again, things change. Michael Thomas wanted Derek Carr to be there. Michael Thomas, whatever. But obviously he holds a grudge. Obviously he's frustrated. All that is true. Okay, and that, like I said, that's not even the biggest. That is whatever. The Carr versus Thomas thing, because I think Thomas holds a grudge because of the whole Olave Carr thing. Because back then Thomas had Olave's back and caught some heat for it. So I think there's always been kind of that issue. And we've seen this year, ladies and gentlemen, like I said, we've seen all year long bickering between Carr and Olave, Carr and McCoy, now Thomas and Carr. It's everywhere. The comments, and I don't put a lot of stock into the comments about him wanting to be play for the Chiefs. Of course. They're going to the Super Bowl for the 4th year out of 5? Who doesn't want to go play for the Chiefs? Which wide receiver doesn't want to go play for who could be the greatest quarterback to ever live? Yeah, I don't even play in the NFL, and I would love to go be on the roster in Kansas City. So I move those to the side. The tweets that I was really surprised about was the ones about the 3 and out. He mentioned going 3 and out and all of that, and the tweet about the OC search. The 3 and outs is interesting because this is an offensive player, former offensive player of the year, who's been in the building his whole career, and he's voicing that people in that building are sitting there saying, you know, we're going to 3 and out a lot. Like, this offense is kind of stagnant. This offense isn't evolving. This offense isn't doing whatever. And he's saying all that about a coordinator, about a coach who's been there for 15, 20 years. You know, so the displeasure that the fans felt that we were voicing all year long, the players were obviously feeling the same thing. When you start putting the puzzle pieces together, Thomas's tweets, Kamara's interview quotes, you know, all of this, not looking great. And I thought the OC search thing was interesting because what does he mean? You know, he says, why do you think that we don't have an OC yet? Is he saying, is it because of Allen? Is he saying that no one wants to come here and work with Allen? Is it Carr? Is he saying no one wants to come here and work with Carr? Because you have to also wonder and kind of theorize, if Michael Thomas feels this way, do other people feel this way? It'd be hard for me to believe that just Michael Thomas has these feelings. Whether about the front office, whether about the coaches, whether about Carr, whether about the offense, whether about the scheme, whatever. Who is on what side? Who is where? Because until we get that fixed, until we get everyone going the same direction, until we get everyone on the same page, the Saints are cooked. The Saints are just going to be a drama-filled franchise with no results and nothing to show for it if we don't figure out what the problem is, who the problem is, and get all that fixed and get a new culture in here. Very obvious that this culture right now is not going to work. We've got to bring a new culture into this team and rebuild from the very foundation of our identity, our mission, our values, all that stuff. This ain't going to work.
At least it feels that way. He tweets that out. Then he shows a video of it and he goes, they'd be mad when I say it. Then later on, someone mentions something else to Derek Carr and says, I've been trying to recruit him every year. I want to see him in a Chiefs jersey ASAP. He responds, fact.
About Michael Thomas, not about Derek Carr. So someone's talking about they're trying to recruit Michael Thomas to be in a Chiefs jersey.
God's timing be the best too. Does that mean he's going to the Chiefs? I can't say for certain. Does it seem that he's open to the idea? Absolutely. Now,
again, I am too. Who wouldn't be open to playing for the Chiefs?
The most damning information, I think, goes when someone mentioned Michael Thomas to that tweet. They said, Mike, if you can stay healthy, you'll have the stats you had when Drew was around, which I don't agree with at all. I think that's just being a delusional fan. But he responds, well, if I didn't get set up by a bad ball, I probably would have had a light little 1,000 yards this year, but coulda, shoulda. I know I get it. LOL. And someone responded back, facts. Any change of scenery probably would be best anyhow. And he said, on top of that, they weren't even trying to get me the ball, but it's no denying my style of play. It doesn't age. Player, you will see. Now,
true. I mean, true. That's a fact. You know, Thomas is a physical, or has been a physical receiver over the middle of the field, takes a lot of hits, a lot of punishment, and it hasn't held up. You know, he's injury prone, ton of injuries over the last couple of years, hard injuries to come back from, might have lost a step, whatever. You know, that is another thing that people are focusing on, like his production. Has Michael Thomas been good? No. Michael Thomas has not played a lot. He has been injured. He's missed a lot of time. No doubt about it. But he's still in the building. Like, we got to focus on where these comments are coming from. You can't just say, oh, well, Michael Thomas hasn't done anything in the last couple of years. Who cares? You know, it's like we're getting a look into the building here. And you really can't, it'd be easy to say it's just one guy. It's just sour grapes. It's one guy just talking about, you know, he's frustrated. But when you fold in all the other stuff we saw this year, all the other interviews, the actions of the team, all of that, it doesn't look like it's just one guy.
Now, I agree with him. I don't think his style of play ages. I think if anything, Mike is just in a Saints offense that's not good, and B is getting older. He's just not the same
Yeah.
player. I don't think it has
Yeah.
anything to do with his play style. I think it's more so his body's just breaking down, and he's not in a great system right now that maximizes it. So then,
But he could be breaking down because of his play style.
that response to that last tweet is from another person, says, waiting for the Saints to get rid themselves of the cancer that is Michael Thomas report to come out. Basically being sarcastic and saying that Who Dat Nation is getting gaslighted into believing that Michael Thomas is the problem, when in reality it's the regime, like Mickey Loomis, like Dennis Allen, all that stuff. Now Mike responds to that. LOL, written by Jeff Duncan, but I bet he won't write why no offensive coordinator is taking the job they've interviewed. It's all
Jeff Duncan taking strays. This was a wild tweet. Jeff Duncan sitting on his couch, got strays in the middle of the Chiefs-Raven AFC Championship game for Michael Thomas. Unbelievable. That tweet right there, that was I didn't see that one coming.
propaganda and politics. I play the sport the right way. I will always rise. So, a lot to digest, a lot to get through. Let's break it all down with all those. First, him mentioning Derek Carr not using his eyes. I don't really care about that. Look, it happened in the Minnesota game. I thought it was a bad decision from Derek Carr.
It is what it is. The best quarterbacks in the NFL do this. Drew Brees almost got Reggie Bush like cut in half. Okay. So like, I don't put a lot, like I said, I don't put a lot of stock into that. I don't blame Michael Thomas for being frustrated. I don't blame him. New coworker, same thing I was saying. You get a new coworker that comes in and you have a moment like that where you feel like they did something wrong that cost you a project or a job or a promotion or whatever, you're going to harbor some feelings. So Michael Thomas harbors some bad feelings. It is what it is. I don't blame him for that. It doesn't mean Derek Carr is bad. It doesn't mean Derek Carr did it on purpose. It doesn't mean any of that stuff. It's just a moment in time happened. Thomas believes that it could have been prevented. Could it? Who the hell knows? So, yeah, that one gets the most like coverage, but I think it's kind of a throwaway tweet.
Derek Carr made a lot of bad decisions during this season. There's nothing really shocking there. To bring that up now, look, I think it's a little lame, but fine. To mention the offensive coordinator thing with no one getting the job, to mention the Saints weren't trying to get him the ball, all of that stuff. Part of it is frustrating because I'm going to be honest, I'm kind of tired of this whole Michael Thomas situation with the Saints. I'm tired of the Saints. I'm tired of Michael Thomas. It's not exclusive to one party. I think both.
Yeah, I mean, that part's kind of true too. That's kind of what I was saying about the controversy. I'm just kind of exhausted with the whole thing. I'm exhausted about, the players versus the team, the fans versus the team, the coaches versus the media, the coaches versus the fan. I'm just tired of all that. I'm tired of the drama. I'm tired of the controversy with no results. I'm tired of the whole thing. We've been in this movie a lot. We were in this movie earlier this year with Michael Thomas tweeting about the Saints. It's better at this point if these two just go their separate ways. And that's fine too. I've never understood why fans can get so wrapped up in a player, who is it? Eric Gordon. He gets booed every time he plays the Pelicans. Eli Apple gets booed and he is hated by Saints fans. The way I look at it, when a player is here, I hope they do well. When a player is gone, I don't care anymore. I don't care if Michael Thomas goes to the Chiefs next year and wins the Super Bowl. It's not going to matter to me at all. I'm worried about who's in the building. I'm worried about who, I've heard people, say, if blank Saint went to this team, I couldn't root for that team. Who cares? Don't care at all. I'm not attached to players. I'm attached to the team. I'm attached to the results from the team. So if Jamal Williams leaves the Saints, goes to the Dolphins, has 25 touchdowns next season, we'll lose zero sleep over it. I won't sit here and be saying, oh, he only had one touchdown for us, and then he goes and has 25 touchdowns for Miami. I can't believe it. So that whole part of the Michael Thomas thing, I'm totally okay with just saying, you know what? Thanks for the memories, Michael. Thanks for the good years. Thanks to the Offensive Player of the Year. Thanks for setting the record. You were part of some great teams. This obviously did not age well. TTYL. See you later. Good luck wherever you're at. If he goes to another team, I'm not going to boo him, not going to hate him, totally indifferent. Next man up. So I always talk about the turnover thing. Like, just next man up, next man up. Like, we talk about Trevor Penning. I have no problem with Trevor Penning. He's not working. Get him out, next guy in. Don't care. This is a business. This is a game. Like, we're trying to win games. We're not trying to make friends. We're not trying to have lifelong, like, best friends with these players. These aren't relationships. It's who's in, who's out. There you go. Derek Carr, he's here. Okay, go Derek Carr. If Derek Carr leaves, next man up. Who's the quarterback now? I'm not going to be tracking Derek Carr. I'm not going to have a Derek Carr voodoo doll. I'm not going to have a Michael Thomas voodoo doll because of some tweets. So, see ya.
Both parties are to blame. But to mention the offensive coordinator thing and how no one's taking the job and pretty much hinting at the regime not being where we want them to be, that's a little concerning. I don't know if this leads to anything. What I would say, though, after reading Sunday's tweets, if you think Michael Thomas is going to be on the Saints next year, I got to know what you're doing on the weekends, because I don't see how it happens.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to be in the Saints either. And that was a good point from this young man. It is concerning because we're just fans. We just watch the team from afar. We're just trying to put these pieces together. We're just saying things. I'm just out here saying, man, it looks like the culture's kind of fried. Man, it looks like the coaches and the players don't really get along. Man, it looks like Dennis Allen's lost the locker room. We're just saying those things. To have a player, a guy has spent his whole career there, for him to basically just say the same thing the fans are saying, that is concerning. That is very concerning. That someone from the inside is telling us, hey, the walls are kind of cracking here. Because we're in the offseason. We're planning for next season. And we've got Dennis Allen back. We've got Mickey Loomis back. We got Derek Carr back. We got a lot of these guys back. So while we're sitting here saying, like, oh, well, if we get a receiver that can do this, and if we get this draft pick, and if we get a defensive end that can do this, none of that matters if the walls are crumbling, like it sounds like they are with the foundation and the culture and the identity of the team. None of that stuff is as important as the culture. You have to have that to win. You have to have the identity and the foundation first before you start worrying about anything else. And it sounds like our biggest problem is this foundational, this cultural divide.
I don't anticipate it. I'd imagine Mike will be playing elsewhere next year. I'm not saying that's the best thing for the Saints. I'm not saying that's the best thing for Mike, although I think both parties would benefit from a split here.
Yeah,
I just think it's unfortunate. This is a guy who started his career with the Saints on an all-pro pace. Offensive Player of the Year, was the first wide receiver to win Offensive Player of the Year since Jerry Rice. And just to see it crumbling ever since, whether it's from injuries, whether it's from bad blood, whether it's bad coaching, bad management, bad quarterback play, whoever you want to blame, there's a lot of hands that go into this pot. It's just pretty frustrating. And
yeah, it is what it is. It is what it is. You almost can't even blame them, right? You almost can't blame the core players from before. They get drafted. They're involved with Sean Payton. They're involved with these really good teams. They're chasing titles. They're playing with Drew Brees, one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever live. There's good players everywhere. People are all pro here. People are Offensive Player of the Year here. We're going to the playoffs. We're winning division titles. We're hosting conference championship games. We're doing all these things. Players are having tons of success, and then the wheels fall off. And now we're in a 3-year stretch of no playoffs and 2-year stretch of just complete disaster with, now that Peyton's left with Allen and Carmichael at the helm. So I don't blame those players for being frustrated after 2-3 years of just nothing, just complete nothingness at the back end of their career. So yeah, I going from that to this, yeah, I could see being frustrating.
And what I will say about this, if you're just bashing Michael Thomas today, I don't know if that's the right response. But if you're acting like he's innocent in all this, I don't think that's the right response either. I see a lot of people saying, what's your take on this? Is he right? Is he wrong? Are some of the things he's saying right? Maybe, probably. Do I think that he has to do this? Maybe not.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of where I come down on it. I don't think he's innocent, but I don't think he really cares about being innocent or not. I don't think he's asking to be validated or verified. I think he feels a certain way. He's a disgruntled employee. He's frustrated. Okay. All right. Sure. It's his perspective. Derek Carr, is probably not in that boat. Derek Carr's probably not frustrated. Derek Carr's probably not a disgruntled employee. So it's just one player's opinion, but we have to take it for what it is. We have to look at it as, okay, where there's smoke, there's fire. Again, no harm, no foul. No one's right here, no one's wrong here. Or is some of what Michael Thomas is saying valid? Possibly. And if it is, that's a huge concern. Is some of what he's saying sour grapes and what he's saying independent to him? Probably. It is what it is. This whole situation, a lot of the times when you have spots like this, and this is really the overarching point of this video, is that everyone who's seeing this situation and they're coming up with, okay, who is right, who is wrong, what side am I on? Either Michael Thomas or Derek Carr. I think you're kind of missing the boat. It's not Thomas versus Carr. It's Thomas showing us that there's something going on behind the scenes. It's Thomas showing us like, hey, this thing might not be working from a front office level, from a coaching level, from that whole perspective. Something's going awry here. Because we can't see that. We can see what's going on in the field. We can't see what they see at practice, travel, watching game tape, in the building, talking to coaches. We don't see that. That's where we got to be focusing with this whole situation. We got to focus on that. Not, oh, well, Michael Thomas hasn't done anything for 4 years. Or Derek Carr is a good quarterback. Here's 40 different bullet points of stats of why he's good. Like those are, you might as well just open your window and start screaming out into the ether if you're trying to defend either individual party. We got to right the ship. We got to fix this. It's one of those things where it's just disappointing. I'm just disappointed seeing how far this culture and how far the lifeblood and the heartbeat of this team has fallen in 2 years. 2 years. We went from being, a very identifiable team. We were scrappy, we were fun, we were relevant, we were high flying, we were hard nosed. The fans and the team and the city were all together, we're all one. Now it's all just fractured. Now it's a fractured mess. It's just really embarrassing to see where it's got in 2 seasons.
But I don't mind if people put pressure on Dennis Allen, put pressure on Mickey Loomis, because I think that this Saints organization has to wake the fuck up and realize that they're not where they were.
Young man.
They talk all about being uncomfortable, trying to make things uncomfortable and fix the culture. Culture wasn't a problem when Dennis Allen first got there. Now it's one of the worst cultures. Is that what I'm supposed to believe? Well, what changed? The coach changed. And I think that.
Yeah, exactly. That's a great point. He said it like a longshoreman would say it. He used some flowery language. But yeah, that's the thing. We had 2 big things happen. Sean Payton left, Drew Brees left. After Drew Brees left, were we good? No, but we weren't this. Payton leaves, now it's a complete cultural disaster. And this also makes me, talking about the OC, this makes me now more than ever want us to hire from outside. If after we hear all this kind of stuff and we watch how this coaching search is gone, if we promote like Ronald Curry and it's just more from the inside, it's going to feel real bad. Real bad. It is obvious now more than ever. We need new ideas, new voices, new eyes, new everything. Because right now we're just bickering. We're just infighting and bickering. Everyone. There's no cohesion at all. It's just hard to watch.
That's one of the problems. And look, if Mike sees and he gets frustrated and he starts mentioning Derek Carr and what he doesn't like, I'm sure he's not the only one who feels that way. And does it leak over? Like, who shares the same sentiment as Mike? And those guys that share that same sentiment, are they on the roster next year? That's a fascinating question because I know Mike's not going to be there.
Well, like I said, it seems like the people who share the sentiment are the people from before, and then there seems to be a very different set. So if the question is, will they be on the roster? If Alvin Kamara, Marshawn Lattimore, Michael Thomas, if all those players aren't on the roster, Chris Olave, it's like, well, what are we going to do? Are we going to field a roster? And if it's those guys versus Dennis Allen, why is Dennis Allen still here? I mean, we talked a lot during the last week of the year about, has Dennis Allen lost the locker room? And we said, yeah, it's pretty evident. This is just more evidence.
But if other guys are, does that kind of seep through? How does that go? So I think this is just a fascinating situation overall for the Saints. There's no doubt about it.
Looking for
Yeah, I mean, you also got to remember too, like, think about whenever we were hearing from Kamara and Demario Davis, when they were talking about people on the team not putting in the time, not putting in the work, not living up to the standard. That's another indicator that there are cracks in this thing. There are problems. I mean, it's been one season, and we've got fans versus the team. We've got coaches versus the fans, coaches versus the media, coaches versus the players, players versus the players. All that has happened this year. This year, we've seen Derek Carr fight with Eric McCoy and Chris Olave. Now we've seen him fight with Michael Thomas. We saw Dennis Allen fight with the fans. We saw the fans fight against the team. We saw Dennis Allen fight against the media. We've seen Kenner Police fight with Michael Thomas and Chris Olave. We've seen Alvin Kamara and Demario Davis call out Saints players for not preparing, not giving their all, not dedicating. We've seen Mickey Loomis talk about the culture of the team. The front office, the GM, talk about how players need to be held accountable and live up to standards. We heard about parking, players not parking in the right place. We heard about players not bringing their Microsoft Surface tablets home. We heard about all that. That has all been within one season. One season. It sounds like I just described 6 seasons of Mad Men. This was over the course of 17 weeks. 17 weeks. Oh, I forgot. There were so many I didn't even list. We had Jameis Winston and the offense defying Dennis Allen to get Jamal Williams a touchdown. Then we had Dennis Allen apologizing to the Falcons and throwing his players under the bus. Then we had players supporting the other players and throwing Dennis Allen under the bus. 17 weeks of it. So, like I said, when you look at all of that, and you look at all of what we've seen this season with the infighting and the bickering and whatnot, if you come out of that and you're trying to defend Derek Carr or Michael Thomas, ladies and gentlemen, wake up. This is not Derek Carr in one corner and Michael Thomas in the other corner. This is the whole kit and caboodle. This is the whole show. Okay? So they got to get this figured out. And if you're an OC and you're hearing this kind of stuff, it doesn't exactly bring a lot of confidence in wanting the job. If you're an offensive coordinator and you're hearing all this and seeing all this and you go into the building and I'm sure you feel it and whatever, I mean, troubling times in New Orleans. Ladies and gentlemen, let me know in the comments below where you come down on this. Give me everything. Give me your thoughts, opinions, whatnot. I'll be down there replying, reacting, reviewing. Thank you for watching. I appreciate it. I'll see you in the next video.